The Trump administration is taking the war on cartels to a whole new level. President Trump declaring drug cartels to be unlawful combatants and says the U.S. is now engaged in formal armed conflict with the cartels. This after recent strikes on what the administration says were drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean. In a memo to Congress obtained by Fox, the administration writes, the United States has now reached a critical point where we must use force in self-defense and defense of others against the ongoing attacks by these designated terrorist organizations. The U.S. has already carried out 3 deadly strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats, including 2 vessels originating from Venezuela over the past month. Joining me here in Dallas is Texas Congressman and Texas Attorney General candidate Chip Roy. Congressman, thanks for being with us here today.
Well, good to be on.
What does it mean? What does it mean to take armed conflict to the cartels?
Well, in 2019, when I was a first-year member of Congress, I introduced legislation to designate cartels as terrorist organizations. I was the first to do that, worked hard for 5 years to get it there, and God bless President Trump for being willing to do it right out of the gate in an executive order. And now, in his memo to Congress, making clear that they're serious about it, and we've seen it now in numerous engagements with these boats that are full of narcotics that are coming to this country, and as you know all too well, as a Texan, killing our loved ones, killing people that we know, dangerous fentanyl. But by the way, it's not just fentanyl, which has become pretty notorious in the last several years, but actually cocaine is now almost doubled in terms of production. It is now at a level that we haven't seen since the 80s. In fact, it's far more than that. And you know why? Because we took our eye off the ball. We were looking at the war on terror on the other side of the globe. We were leaving our border wide open, particularly in the last 5 years. And now in the Western Hemisphere, that stuff is running amok. The president now knows that. They're now seeing the result of the Biden administration all these years. So they're taking, to answer your question, the war to the terrorists using enhanced tools. And we can use stuff here on this side. And you know, from a legal background, we now have greater prosecutorial tools. We can now go after, with material support for terrorists, the financial networks. But then also, when you're prosecuting them, you can actually get higher sentences. But in terms of engagement overseas, he's right to take it directly to them.
What do you anticipate that means? You described very well for us the need, the problem, and some of the tools that we do have at our disposal. But this news today and this memo to Congress seems to indicate that there is something new, that this is a next step forward against the cartels, another step in this war. And I have to wonder, does that mean troops in Mexico? Does that mean special forces attacking the cartels? Does that mean drones over Mexican air? What does it mean?
Well, certainly I think what it means is targeting the cartels with whatever it takes to stop them from killing Americans. Now, obviously, the president in his engagement with Congress has to work with us in terms of the use of, the authorization of the use of military force. He has a great deal of power as commander-in-chief, should have that power to go stop any imminent threat to American citizens. And a lot of this activity actually poses an imminent threat to American citizens. So, yes, however they're going to use the technology, drones and other things, but importantly, it's a message. Don't discount the importance of the message to the leaders in South America, the message to the leaders in Mexico, the Northern Triangle, the message to the cartels themselves that this president is serious, taking out those boats. Like, it's not just about those boats. It's sending a message to them that if we're going to have their business model built on something that is killing Americans, Donald J. Trump is not going to take that lightly, and he is right to take it on, and God bless him for it. He's doing a masterful job in sending that message to the world.
It will be fascinating to see how that message is received, not just by the cartels, but as you point out, by, for example, the leader of Mexico. All right, Congressman, I hope you stay right here because we need to talk about the government shutdown and the battle on Capitol Hill. All right, as Democrats waste your time keeping the government closed, President Trump is wasting no time cutting the red tape. President Trump posting today, I have a meeting today with Russ Vought, he of Project 2025 fame, to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to make America great again quietly and quickly. So how and what could be on the chopping block. Take a look at this. Here's some of the agencies that Russ Vought and OMB could be looking at amidst this government shutdown. They could eliminate duplicative agencies within the federal government. They could freeze non-essential hiring. They could cut redundant regulations, consolidate federal programs, and even privatize certain services. Now, President Trump has already zeroed in on a number of government agencies. Throughout his administration, he has talked about the Department of Education, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, Minority Business Development Agency, Community Development Financial Institutions, and the U.S. Agency for Global Media. So while Democrats are digging in, are they really just digging themselves a bigger hole? Even the Washington Post editorial board thinks that might be the case. They write, left-wing Democrats, like the Freedom Caucus before them, entered this shutdown in a position of weakness. President Trump and his budget director, Russ Vought, now have extraordinary authority to choose which agencies to close, what spending to prioritize, and even which government workers to lay off. The most likely outcome is that Democrats will come to regret having just walked into a trap. At the bottom of that trap, health care for illegal immigrants. Democrats claim this demand isn't what's keeping the government closed, but the White House revealing just how the Democrat agenda could allocate billions in that direction. You can see here at the state level how those billions are reimbursed at the local level to give health care to illegal immigrants. It comes out to a total, when you add all of this together, of almost $200 billion going toward health care for illegal immigrants. And as they talk in circles, the president, he gets down to business. It is a bit of a four-step cycle that we've watched with messaging from Democrats. It starts out, it's not happening. It's all a big lie. Then it moves to, it's a complete right-wing conspiracy. Then you hear language starting to admit that it's happening, but eventually, as you get to step 4, it's a good thing. Here, let me walk through this with you together. We'll start with step number 1. This is what you've heard plenty of. It's not happening. This came most notably from the lips of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. He put it at best in an X. He said, this is a lie. Not a single federal dollar goes to providing health insurance for undocumented immigrants. Not one penny. Republicans would rather lie and shut down the government than protect your health care. Well, Chuck, that brings us to step number 2. The idea that all of this is a right-wing conspiracy. That's what we heard from the person that's actually pushing back on Chuck Schumer and perhaps trying to take his job, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
No, not even a little bit, not even at all. This is what Republicans love to do. Republicans love to dangle this shiny object that says, but what if someone not like you gets it? The fact of the matter is, undocumented people do not and cannot access and be covered by the ACA, Medicaid, Medicare, period.
Okay, the ACA, Medicare, Medicaid, period. Stay with me here. Step 1, it's a lie, it's not happening. Step 2, it's a complete conspiracy theory. Step 3, though, step 3, now there's an admission that it is happening, but it's not that big of a deal. And you started to hear that from Congressman Ro Khanna.
The amount of money that actually is going towards people who are undocumented is such a small portion of the Medicaid cuts or the Affordable Care Act, if at all. 90 to 95% of the funding we're talking about is talking about funding for American citizens.
So it's happening, but it's not that big of a deal. It's really a small amount of money, of your taxpayer money, going to health care for illegal immigrants. And that brings us to step 4. It's the step you're about to see and that you have seen in the past. It's happening and it's good. The party seems to be getting their wires crossed when it comes to this issue. You see, back in 2019, they were all much more honest. Should your taxpayer dollars be going to fund the health care for illegal immigrants? When they all stood on a debate stage together, they fell in line.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Every hand up. So what needs to happen in the end of this Democrat doom loop? Ultimately, we hope, reopen the government. Let's find out and bring the conversation back to Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman, you heard in that entire explanation a reference from President Donald Trump and others to the Freedom Caucus. You're a member of the Freedom Caucus. The implication from the Washington Post board is the Democrats should be learning from the Freedom Caucus that you've pushed in the past, in your case, for government cuts, and it didn't work out. Is that the experience that you had and that you see Democrats now walking into, that government shutdowns actually don't serve very well to get your goal in the end?
Well, let's look at what we've done in the past, okay? I think it's actually instructive. Yesterday, Newt Gingrich said something that I thought was very important. He pointed out that the American people do not like additional government spending and that they're not fond of government shutdowns. Democrats are walking into a trap in which they're doing both. They're shutting down the government to spend more money. They're shutting down the government to spend more money, to put money in the pockets of insurance companies, $40 billion a year to K Street lobbyists and insurance companies, and to illegal aliens, as you just illustrated. They are doing so in a way that I think is putting them in a box. When we've taken on those fights as the Freedom Caucus, and I stand by them. 2013 with Ted Cruz, we didn't have a Freedom Caucus yet, right? But we took to the floor, Ted did, to make D.C. listen, to say, you know what, when we implement Obamacare, your freedom is going to be taken away. You're going to spend more on health care. You're going to lose choice. You're not going to go to the doctors of your choice, and insurance companies are going to be enriched. So we tried to fight for the people. Guess what? We had a great year in 2014 because the American people saw us fighting for them. Here, Democrats are fighting for illegal aliens and they're fighting for more spending. My point is, we believe right now that we're in a position because the Freedom Caucus worked with a good president, a great president, a good administration, a great administration, Russ Vought, to do the right thing. We passed a spending bill, a CR, to get us to November 20th. The Freedom Caucus helped lead to work and make that happen. After what happened? We worked with them to deliver on the big, beautiful bill, with Medicaid restraint of $1 trillion, with a $500 billion reduction of the Green New Scam subsidies, and we worked together to make all that happen.
So your argument is that Americans don't like government shutdowns, but they certainly don't like it when the result or the motive is to get more government spending.
Correct.
And it has been more government spending when it comes to spending Medicaid money, federal government money, on health care for illegal immigrants. You can take a look at this graph, everyone watching can as well at home, that shows the amount of money spent on illegal immigrants over time through the funding of Medicaid subsidies. Now, the left is saying, and their mainstream media counterparts are saying, that's not happening. I thought J.D. Vance, vice president, laid it out very well when he said, money is fungible. It's like giving $100 to the mob. You may tell the mob, I don't want you to spend this on guns. But when they spend that $100 on food or shelter, they have an extra $100 now to spend on guns. And that's what's happening with states with Medicaid money. They're spending it at the hospital level for health care for illegal immigrants.
No question. And in fact, the vice president was retweeting my former chief of staff, Wade Miller, who's a great decorated veteran and a good friend of mine. And he put that out there, this point about it being fungible. Why? Because we were all working together. Wade is running the organization that Russ Vought founded, Citizens for Renewing America. We were all working together this last year to set up a construct to get to this moment. We funded defense $150 billion so that we had money to get our defense where it needed to be. We funded the border $150 billion. Thinking Democrats would be stupid enough to shut the government down, we now have the money to keep securing the border and fund ICE and fund Border Patrol. And we were moving forward to make sure that we stopped in the big, beautiful bill exactly that. The fungible nature of the money. All the Democrats were saying, you guys are going to, this isn't about illegal aliens. You guys are going to hurt us here. We said, no, we're going to put in work requirements. We're going to put in restrictions on illegal aliens because you're moving that money around in California and you're moving it around in New York. And the Wall Street Journal wrote about this. A lot of our good friends at Fox Business were making this clear. Dagan McDowell was awesome about this on Fox Business. And we won that argument. And that's why the Democrats are flipping out. They've got nothing to run on. They're literally on empty, and they've got, they're no more bullets in their magazine, and they're just throwing the magazine at us.
And they're very upset about mariachi music.
They are.
Very upset about mariachi music. All right, Congressman Roy, we wish you the best of luck in your upcoming race, and thank you for being with us here today in Dallas to break down this very complicated issue.
My pleasure, Will, as always. You got to come to a Will Beckman show next time down in Austin.
I'm getting the invitations, and I'm happy to go to any country music concert.
Yes,
thank
sir.
You, Congressman.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.